Welcome to Marketing Champions. I am your host, David Benfield, and on this show, we talk to digital marketing experts to give some tips, some tricks, to help you become a better marketer yourself. So joining me today from Tampa, Florida, from way across the state, is my good friend Jeremy Knauff from Spartan Media. Jeremy, how are you today?
David, I am outstanding. Thanks for having me today.
It is my pleasure, I can assure you, sir. So let's just jump right in. Let's talk about Spartan Media. What is your company? What do they do?
Yeah, so it's been kind of an evolution over the years. We started off as a full-service digital marketing agency, but more recently we pivoted into more of a PR-focused approach where we take someone who is a legitimate expert at whatever it is they do, and we turn them into an authority in their industry so that they can attract more clients, make more money, and get more opportunities.
So what made you switch from one to the other? Like, talk to us about that progression.
That was one of those really shitty situations with a great silver lining. The short version is I was blindsided by a health crisis. This almost killed me. And I spent about 2 years on my deathbed. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. But during that process, I spent about 2 years on my deathbed. My company basically dwindled down to zero. I had to rebuild everything, not just from zero, but from less than zero. Because, as you know, in the marketing world, if you don't have current case studies, current clients, current examples, you're nobody. You're no different than some random person on Fiverr. So I had to figure out how to get back on top really fast. And what I ended up doing was leveraging public relations along with social media and SEO to put myself back on the map. And then over time, I realized that this was something that other people needed as well. And we pivoted to providing that specifically as a kind of a package service.
That's an incredible story. And I'm glad you're here to tell it. That sounds like a very harrowing experience, man. So let's talk about some tips, some tricks, for new marketers. So what would be your best piece of advice for, say, someone coming right out of college? Either they're working for somebody or they're going to start their own company. What's the one, the daily habit that they need to get in that you think will help propel them towards success?
So the biggest piece of advice I can give on that is actually twofold. It's, first of all, to always be learning, right? There's so much going on in this industry. It's constantly changing, constantly evolving. So we always have to be learning. We always have to be experimenting, adapting to the current situations in the industry. But then at the same time, we have to be aware of something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. I assume you're familiar with that, David?
I am, but for our viewers, please elaborate.
Yes. All right, absolutely. All right, so in a nutshell, when you first start off learning something, you understand that you don't know anything about it. As you start to learn things, your knowledge goes up dramatically. And you go from knowing nothing to knowing a tremendous amount. But the reality is you still don't know much of anything about whatever it is you're doing yet. And then as you continue to learn more, then you start to realize how little you actually knew back when you thought you knew all of this information. So where I see this being a problem for a lot of marketers is, case in point, I had this employee who I hired a few years back. He had worked for an agency of a friend of mine, and I didn't pay attention to the hidden message that agency owner was telling me when he informed me about this person before I hired them. In a nutshell, he thought he knew far more than he did because he had learned a little bit, and that kind of inflated his confidence. But the reality was it overinflated it. So he thought he knew everything, and the reality was he knew very little. That creates another problem, though, where as you start to learn more and you realize how little you actually knew, then you start to doubt yourself and you get what's called imposter syndrome. So it's a very delicate balancing act between learning, getting more knowledge, but realizing that you still don't know enough, and then still at the same time trying to maintain your confidence throughout all of this. It's an interesting scenario to be in.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. It's one of those things where sometimes you need to remember that you try to fail forward, and that just because you learn a particular piece of information doesn't mean that you know how to practice it, right? It's one thing to learn something, it's another thing to implement that knowledge into actual practice. And that's where we come into all sorts of, trouble and issues like that, and where you're talking about how you think you know, but you fail, and then you have to have the confidence to fail forward, learn from it, and keep moving on. But unfortunately, Jeremy, that's all the time I have for you today. I really want to thank you, for coming on the show today. That was very insightful.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
All right, Jeremy. Yeah, so stick around for just a second, Jeremy. You and I will talk after we get off the camera, but that's going to do it for us. So, guys, if you'd like to learn more about Jeremy Knauff's company, Spartan Media, head to dailyadbrief.com. That's going to do it for us today on the show. Have yourself a fantastic afternoon or morning or evening whenever you're watching this.
Simplify presents Addressable CTV, combining the power of TV with the targeting and attribution of digital. Simplify's Addressable CTV delivers massive reach with the ability to scale without sacrificing precision. TV buyers can generate incremental reach with household-level targeting, frequency controls, reporting, and insights. To learn more about Simplify's Addressable CTV and what it can do for your clients, visit simply.fi.